Well, hello, Corey.
Hello, Julie.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I don't know why we're acting like we never talk.
I don't know either.
All right. So we're talking today about um three reasons your employees are unhappy and how you can fix it. So, do you think our employees are unhappy?
100%.
I do not agree with that. I think well, we really only have one, and that's Frances, and I think Frances is
I think she's
delighted,
perfectly content with her job.
perfectly content. Right. All right. So let's dive in and talk about reasons that employees are unhappy. What's the first reason? What do you think?
Well, before we even dive into that, I think that we should premise why we are having this conversation because
Oh, let's do that.
it's not just about. I mean, obviously, you want to make your employees happy. You don't want poor employee morale. You don't want whatever it is that comes out of that. But the reason that you obviously, as a business owner, not so much a human, but as a business owner, you want your employees to be happy is it just makes your job easier. It improves revenue. It improves everything about your business just in general by having happy, content, empowered employees.
Agreement. Have you ever been in a situation where you've worked for somebody, you've been an employee, and you've been an unhappy employee?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, yeah. And you're less productive, right?
Less productive. I mean, like to the point where you're almost counterproductive.
Yeah. 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 And this really all relates back to as you were, starting to go down the path of why owners, CEOs, founders, whatever we want to call them. Let's pick a word to call them for the purposes of this
Let's
particular
just call
live.
them business owners.
Business owners. All right. This all relates to why business owners really need to they need to fire themselves. They need to move from working in their business to on their business. They need to reduce the dependency on them. And that unhappy employees is a big result of business owners who are too involved in the day to day and are not doing enough to um, focus on strategy.
Yes. Question for you. Because we all have worked with people who are just not they're not the go-getters of the world. They show up exactly at 9 a.m. and they leave at 5:01. Like they are
Yep.
not putting in any extra effort and they seem to be content with that. Like putting in their 40 hours a week is just what they do in order to do other things. They have no desire to get fulfillment out of their job and they don't like in my opinion they might not really even care if they get micromanaged. They're just like as long as I get my paycheck every other week, I'm happy with that. But I wonder, like, do you think that they're actually okay with that, or if they worked for a good leader, a good owner who helped to bring out the best of them, that they might actually get a little bit more out of them?
I think it's honestly, I think it's situational. Depends on the employees. I know plenty of people. There's this. What went through my head when you were saying that was the concept of work to live or live to work, right? Which I hate both of those sayings. But there are people who the only thing they ever want is just let me collect the paycheck so I can go live my life. I can go do the things that I want to do, and they're content with that lifestyle. I do think in the majority of the cases you can bring more out of those people, but I don't think it's always possible to bring more out of those types of employees, right? There's just a subset of people who are like, I'm just going to do the minimum to get by. I'm content with my 2.5 to 3% increase every year for cost of living and my 3 stars on my review, and just let me go about my thing and you go about yours and don't ask me to do anything extra. There are people like that who exist.
Yeah, there was this place where I worked years ago. I would in the parking garage where I would park, I would always see this one car in there, and their license plate said basically, I mean, it was abbreviated obviously, but it said "Live for Friday." Like this person was that adamant about like the hating the work week that they put it on their license plate that they are living for the weekend basically. And like in my mind, I was like, if I ever knew one of my employees had that license plate, I'd be like, dude, go get a different job. Like you're spending a significant, like a third, not a third, like a quarter, 25% of your life here, if not more. You should be happy, like, get a little bit more out of it than waiting for that Friday. Cause they're not doing shit on Friday to begin with. Like Friday
Right.
comes around, they're all like, all right, cool. Well, I'm probably going to clock out at like 3, go to happy hour early. Like, like they're not engaged in the business.
Yeah. Oh, not at all. Well, not at all. Right. And they're not, and they're also probably, let's be real, somebody like that probably isn't leading that exciting of a life outside of work either.
I mean, who knows? They could be, skydiving every weekend and base jumping and whatever, because, well, I don't know. I hope that they're doing more than just like,
Going home and watching Netflix.
yeah, and ferrying their kids around to like soccer practice or soccer games or whatever. Like they're actually doing something other than like, oh, I just don't have to be at work for 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. All right. Well, let's dive in. So what are some reasons? Give me a reason that give me one of the reasons that employees are unhappy as a direct result of business owners needing to fire themselves.
Well, I think we touched on it already. For those people who want to work, who want to be motivated, who want like a little bit of empowerment or whatever, micromanaging, like that's one thing that I know that drives me insane when it comes to like bosses, is people micromanaging you. And it's like there's a fine line between like making sure your business is running correctly and micromanaging people. And I think that that's one reason why people are unhappy, is because like, why am I even here? Why don't you just do the work? I'll go find a new job.
Listen, you hate it so much that even like if you think for a smidgen of a second that I'm trying to micromanage something, like you roll me, man. Like it's not even.
Yeah, and again, like was it last week? I forgot to post a blog or whatever, and it's like be like, hey, did the blog get posted today? Nothing wrong with like following up on whatever it is. Like, yeah, you're just curious. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, I went ahead and posted that blog because it didn't get done today. Well, it's like, well, maybe there was a reason I didn't post the blog, or maybe the website was down last night, or whatever it was. Like, so like
I just posted. I just asked the question.
Oh, I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I understand. Okay. So basically it's just like too much involvement. Like they're in everything, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of comes across as you don't trust your employees. I think one of the reasons that it happens is, and I'm curious for your thoughts on this. We tend to focus as business owners on doing things we would much let's be real, we would rather do things that either we're really good at or that we really enjoy, right? And so it's really easy to push off the things that we don't like doing or that are hard, right? So building a pipeline in sales, for example, I think that's hard for most people. I don't enjoy it, but I know that if we want to continue to have sales, it has to be done. But when you stay super focused on the things you like to do or that you're exceptionally good at as an owner, when you have employees that could be doing it, it becomes very frustrating for the employees because they're like, the people personalize things. Am I not any good at my job? Don't think I know what I'm doing? Do you like, what's the problem? Right?
Sure. And yeah, it's, when it comes to being the boss, you have to be the adult in the room, so to speak. Yeah. Well, I mean, for the most part, like if your employees, like if it comes down to the end of the day where you just get stuck doing all the crap work because you have to keep your employees motivated because they want to do the fun, the challenging, the rewarding, whatever work, and you're just stuck with the crap work. I'm sorry, like that's just kind of like how business works.
Right.
You can't tell your employees, all right, you have to do the crap work and I get to have all the fun.
Well, you can, but you're not going to have employees for very
exactly.
long.
Yeah.
So what's one thing that business owners can do to start to distance the micromanagement?
Well, they need to understand what they're doing throughout the day. And then, I mean, there's like 1,000 things that go into that, but
I know, like, I have to ask you. You only have to give us one, Corey.
But I want to give 1,000.
Okay. We don't have that much time.
yeah, it's understanding what it is that like is necessary for you to be a part of. For instance, like if it's signing or like reading and signing contracts, you don't want to pass that on to somebody else because that could potentially screw your business. So you're adding value in some way, shape, or form, and you don't want to put that responsibility on an employee, let's say.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, but then like looking at the things that you don't need to do and outsourcing those, delegating those.
Yep. And I think sometimes just that good old like communication, right? Hey, are there times when it feels like I'm micromanaging you? Like, if you have a good relationship with your team, with your employees, and they feel comfortable and they know they can communicate things with you, having those conversations becomes really easy, and it becomes easier for them to say, "Yo, Corey, like you got to get off my back. I know how to do this stuff." And obviously, you're not going to. Most people are going to talk to their boss like that, but you should empower people to be able to feel like they can have the conversation, at least to say, I'm feeling really, really suffocated in my role, or like, I'm supposed to be doing this. You keep taking over. Am I doing something wrong? Like, help me improve so that you don't have to spend your time on this. And I know that sounds crappy because it's like almost like we're putting it on the employee, but it's, micromanagement feels different for different people. And so what you might consider being micromanaged, I may not. And so just being able to have that open conversation about it will be really helpful.
Agree. What do you think the primary reason is, or one of the main reasons why people micromanage?
That's a great question. This is, listen, for anybody watching, they can tell this isn't scripted at all because I didn't know that one was coming. Um, I think the primary reason that people micromanage is because they have control issues, so they want to be involved in everything. I think it's also could come down to trust issues, but I also think it's what I mentioned earlier. In some instances, it's these are the things I enjoy doing, so I want to keep doing them. So those are like three reasons. What do you think it is?
I mean, I think control and trust are like probably two of the main reasons, especially if you're a business owner. It's more personal for you. Like this is your baby, so to speak. So you if anything goes wrong, it's affecting you not only like emotionally because you've built this business, but it could be affecting you financially.
Yeah.
So that's always tough to give up that control. But one of the things that people have to get comfortable with is understanding that people are going to do things a different way than you. Like you can't clone yourself. You can't, uh, not yet. You can't clone yourself. You can't.
Not yet.
Yes. So if a job needs to get done, people are going to do it the way that they think it's best. And it might not be the best way. It might not be the way that you do it, but you just have to be okay with it because at the end of the day, that's their job to do. And your job is just to make sure that they're doing their job. Of course, you can give them pointers along the way, especially if they're new or if they're inexperienced or whatever it is. You could say, hey, I like what you did there. This is how I would have done it, and let them make the choice of how to continue to do that job. I mean, there's some things that you have to put your foot down. Like this is just how we do this,
Yeah.
especially if there's like regulations or laws or whatever involved. But yeah,
I think that that's, that's a great point. And that that control, or being able to say like, this is how I would have done it, right? I think even that sometimes can come across the wrong way with employees. So that's something that I personally would need to work on, right? Because I don't want it to come across as offensive, like you did it wrong. It's just I would have done it differently. It's kind of why I like to use the method of, I'm going to tell you what needs to be done. I don't really care how you get there, right? It's like I could tell you, like, Corey, I need you to go to the grocery store and pick up, a turkey and some cranberries, fresh cranberries, not canned, and some orange juice. I don't care what route you take. I don't care what grocery store you go to. I just care that that the end result is I have the three things that I need. And that's becomes a much easier way. So you have to divorce yourself from the how a lot of times as a business owner.
and that's one thing that I've never really understood because I'm not a micromanager by any means. I probably need to be a little bit more into that. Like I'm
Yeah.
pretty good at just letting people run with, just go do your job.
Yeah.
And but like that, like I don't understand the people who are just like, all right, when you leave your house, you need to go down this road, you need to take this turn, you're going to go to this before you don't want to get the turkey first because that's going to take up too much room in the shopping cart. It's yeah, like, I would just leave and never come back. Like
Right. Yes. It's like, Stu, do get off me. Okay. All right. So, what is another reason that employees are unhappy?
I mean,
That relates to a business owner being too in the weeds.
I think like all of these are going to be kind of, I mean, like obviously they're all around the same subject, but like that lack of empowerment. Like again, for most people, they enjoy a challenge, they enjoy a puzzle, they enjoy figuring out like something, they enjoy that satisfaction. Most
Mhm.
people enjoy the satisfaction of a hard day's work, and if you don't get that satisfaction, like it makes working almost meaningless in the other than you're getting a paycheck.
Yeah, I agree. Empowerment it's very important, I think, for employee satisfaction, for motivation, and I think it's also really important for business owners. Like, so if I own a business, which I happen to, but let's say that I own a company and you work for me, being able to empower you, grow the trust, develop your skills so that you can take on more and more, it frees up time for me as a business owner to focus on strategy, on the important things, the vision of where the company's going. Because if we don't have that, then there's really you don't have a roadmap, right? So then it's like, then I have to tell you, like, hey, Corey, don't put the turkey in the shopping cart first because it takes up too much room, or you're going to end up spending too much time in the store because you're going to be circling all over the place, right? It's just like empower, trust your people to do it. If they have questions, they're going to come back, and it's going to free you up to do the things that you really need to do.
Well, and it also improves the customer experience. It helps just the business grow organically in that sense because the um somebody has an issue, they could talk to potentially any employee in your business, and that person will say, "Okay, I will fix this." Not, "Well, let me go find somebody," or "I have to talk to my manager." Or it's like, "Let me just fix the problem," and there you go. And that's, I mean, we all hate getting put on hold or waiting for a response email or whatever it is, waiting for the chatbot to go away so that we can talk to an actual human. That it's like just being able to say, "Hey, I've got a problem. Oh, it's fixed. Cool." You know.
Right. Or that old, hey, let me go talk to my manager and see what I can do. It's like, seriously? Like, you
Yeah.
can't. I'm asking for $14.99 to be refunded because you charged me twice, and you can't do that without talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Those are not empowered employees. And
And
that,
that right there is like, I mean, that could be for a lot of reasons, but that right there is just a trust issue. And that comes down to training and hiring on your culture and firing when necessary. Because if you can't trust people to treat the business as it's their own, yes, I mean, people are going to, even your best employees are going to cut corners and figure out ways that they can, I don't want to say steal from you, but in the end of the day, it's stealing from you. It's like they're gonna offer discounts they probably shouldn't have, or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you have happy customers, happy returning customers, repeat customers, if everybody's good at the end of the day and you're still making a couple dollars, like you just have to chalk up that the like you're not at 100% efficiency, and you have to be okay with that.
yeah, I will tell you, one of the hardest things for that, and I still sometimes like struggle with this piece of it, right? We are co-owners of SB Pace, and I have sales, and it's like you want to close deals, right? And so sometimes, even when I know, like, I have the latitude to, like, I could price it and sell it however I wanted to, right? We have that understanding. I still sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to ask him what he thinks about this particular price or this particular discount before I offer it, because I want to make sure I'm not like being ridiculous. And you frequently remind me when I do that, like, I don't know why you're asking me this, right?
I'd say
Like,
100% of the time I'm like, just make the sale.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, that's hard. And even as an owner, and I want to say the reason that I do it is because, I don't want to, well, one, I don't want to give our stuff away for free, but two, I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything in terms of, not only what we're offering, but how we're pricing it, because I want it, the value has to be there for everybody. It's not just, it can't just be a good deal for our clients. It also has to work for us. And that I want to be respectful of the fact that, I'm not doing 100% of the work. You're doing part of the work too. And so making sure that we're like in agreement, like, yeah, this makes sense. But I also know I don't have to. I could sell something for $1 and you'd be like, "Hey, nice job." Good. Well, you would not say that to me. Although maybe you would. I don't know.
I don't know.
You made
Depends
the
on what you're
sale.
selling.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that empowerment, the micromanagement, they sort of fall into that same vein. I have a question for you though. So let's say that you're a business owner and you've got, you know, five or six employees. Not a lot of employees. There's a lot of work to be done. We know this. We go through this, right? There's a ton to get done. How do you and you can't really you can only hand off so much because everybody's at capacity, because when you're small and you're actually bringing, you're either selling a product or a service or whatever, and you've got customers, clients, whatever you want to call them. Like, how do you decide, one, what to hand off, but more importantly, how do you make it as easy as possible on your employees so that they can take things and just run with it and go, and then you turn around and focus on some other things? Like, what's the key there? Because this is one of the big things that I feel like a lot of small business owners struggle with.
Well, I mean, realistically, not realistically. Um, in a perfect world, everybody in your business is only working on value added tasks.
Yes.
Everything else should be as automated as possible. So doing the mindless monkey work of data entry or uh, whatever it happens to be, like that should not be something that a human is doing. It is the year 2021. We are in the future. We can automate these things. But it's understanding the return on investment for any kind of system or process that you implement. It's documenting your processes so that the best part about documenting processes is you find the gaps in your business, you find the inefficiencies, but you're also creating like a training document, so to speak, in terms of being able to hand that off. So if I'm doing something and I'm like, we talked about this, I think on a podcast recently, but when it comes to offloading work for me, I generally I document the processes that I hate doing because I
Mhm.
want to eventually hand that off to somebody. So for instance, it's a hate might be a strong word, but it's something that I shouldn't be doing. So for instance, um, posting uh, anything, like generally when it comes to posting stuff on our website or podcasts or whatever, like that all falls on me. Social media is not my thing, but like if it's a blog or if it's a podcast or whatever, like, but that's like realistically, that's something that we could hand off to somebody because it's just time that I shouldn't be spending
Mhm.
doing something that, yeah, it takes 10 minutes, it's quick, whatever, but you do that a bunch of times and now, a significant portion of your week is taken up by the fact of just doing this work that could be handed off to somebody else. And it might make more sense for somebody else, like let's say posting the blogs, hand that off to whoever is also posting social media because it's like post the blog, it's quick, it's simple, it's easy, and then you're already like you need that in order to create content for social media. So you can kind of group those things together into one process that you can then just hand off to somebody else. So yeah, they're having to do some of the non-value added work, so to speak, in terms of like the manual work of posting, but they're getting the information that they need to then provide more value.
Yeah. So it's that looking at the value add, but really ultimately the big score there is the processes being documented, even if it's at a very, very high level.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's process. I think understanding people's roles and responsibilities, right? And then really understanding the value added stuff, right? When you have minimal employees, you don't have the luxury of getting to focus on stuff that doesn't really add value, right? Like what we would refer to as, MMAs, money making activities, or staying close to the cash, right? You have to think about what are the things that are going to generate revenue, whether you're in product development, if you're selling a product, if you're selling a service. How are we continuing to build the pipeline and sell stuff? And every single thing that you do should be looking at that, right? So, but not just you, like the entire company. If you've got 4 or 5, 6 employees, whatever that number is, understanding what their role is. And somebody has to do the grunt work, right? Somebody has to create the social post. And I don't mean to say that like social media is grunt work, because it's such a big part of how people get and find, how they find and talk to potential customers. They build their pipeline through social media. But in my opinion, if you've got a team, somebody else at the very least maybe is creating the content or helping you figure out sort of what the themes are going to be for social media. Or maybe you're handing off the writing of the blogs, or you're handing off, like that, you're automating the posting, whatever it is, so that you can continue to build the pipeline and get more customers. But it really comes down to understanding everybody's role, and then documenting processes, and really understanding what is adding value to your business. Like we can take a look at it and say, you should look at everything you're doing and say, is this really are we adding any value with this? Does this make any sense? Right. And if it doesn't, then stop doing it or do it less frequently. That's my answer.
Excellent. What are your thoughts on getting people involved, like your team involved in creating the business strategy?
I think that is one of the best things that you can do to sort of up the morale and engagement level of your team. So if everybody's involved and has input into creating the strategy, then you've got instant buy-in. People are feeling heard. They feel like they are valued and that they are an important part of the team. And you're getting outside perspective, people that are like dealing with the customers every day. They're getting the feedback, they're seeing what's happening, and so they have firsthand knowledge of what's really going well, where things might be broken that can be improved upon over the next, if you're doing a 12-month strategy. Like I 100% say bring as many people in as possible into developing the strategy, creating the vision, so that everybody in the boat is rowing in the same direction and everybody feels like they have a voice. What do you say?
I agree to a degree. There still is the old saying of having too many chefs in the kitchen. So getting feedback from your team or getting ideas is good because of all of those reasons. It gets buy-in. It helps people feel um, appreciated, or it helps them feel like they're a part of the team. But you also need to be very clear about what what the expectations are. Yeah, you might have some input into what's going on, but I ultimately have the final say in what's going to happen with this business.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
and in brainstorming, there are such things as stupid ideas. There are things like it is possible to have a stupid question. I'm sorry, for the anybody who never graduated from third grade, but yes, there are stupid questions. There are stupid ideas, and if you ask a dumb question or you give a dumb idea, you should be prepared for the consequences, which is somebody shooting down that idea or saying, "Hey, that's a dumb
Let's just
question."
let's just go ahead and cross that one off the list.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um,
So then, I mean, the other thing, like I think that as business owners, one of the things that we should always really strive for is when we talk, I think we are talking about this. I get so many conversations confused, but the concept of firing yourself, like as a business owner, you shouldn't be involved in all day-to-day operations. It's the day-to-day involvement is good, but you should be able to also just leave to go on vacation. You should be able to put business on hold to take care of your personal life, because ultimately that's what we should all be kind of working for, is or working towards, is getting to the point where we don't have to work all the time. You have empowered, happy, content, well-paid employees who are doing their jobs, and you're just kind of overseeing the whole thing.
That is the goal, right? Take a vacation without actually having to work during the vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the goal, right? Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we've taken like 30 minutes, which is generally all we take on the lives. Any like hot tips that you want to give to business owners to kind of help them start to right the ship on this?
I mean, my biggest thing, especially for anybody who is a micromanager, or is just, you just need to get comfortable giving up control. You need to get comfortable with the fact that it might, like, the job might not be 100%, but the trade-off there is you can't put 100% towards everything in your business. So if you're doing everything, you're probably not putting in 100%.
You're also
So
probably not doing anything well.
exactly. So get comfortable giving up control.
Exactly. Perfect. And I would say that people should understand how they spend their time. I think a lot of people don't understand how they're actually spending their time, and they don't realize how much of it's just spent poorly. So, all right, this was great. We'll do another one in a couple of weeks, but we actually have a blog that came out today on this, and we'll be releasing an article on LinkedIn in a couple of minutes here that you can read more about why your employees are unhappy and how you can fix it. And until then, we will see you next time.